Marathon is a game that really excites me. And I think largely in part, that is due to it being an upcoming release that is entirely original. Yes, I know the Marathon game and franchise existed a few decades ago, but it may as well be with Bungie's new release, a completely new IP. And that's such a refreshing take to see from a huge AAA developer in an era where we are stuck and shoveled with the same remasters, sequels, and rehashed projects over and over with this because of the sole reason that they are low risk, high reward. A lot of the times they are familiar, they are safe, and they know that they are, more likely to make a profit by doing those over and over. Take your Call of Duties, for example, as probably the best example there. So to see Bungie finally delve and dip their toes into a new experience, a new genre, still sticking within their realms of doing a first-person shooter, their bread and butter, but taking a new spin on it with the extraction shooter style, has me very intrigued and very excited as well. And I'm cautiously optimistic because I have a lot of respect for Bungie. Their games and their projects hold a special place in my heart, not just now, but growing up as well. Destiny, for example, has probably been one of the most formative games in my teenage years, and it's been out for 10 years, and I still find the time and rare occasion to jump on it even now, after 10 years of playing. And that speaks to how good of a job they did at maintaining an IP, because it's a very easy thing to have short-term success with a game franchise or a release, have a good launch, but to sustain a player base of that magnitude for that long is a skill in itself, and they deserve credit for that. And that's largely in part due to their expertise, as I mentioned earlier, of first-person shooter genre. They know how to make a game fun. I will forever stand on the point that Destiny, and before that Halo as well, their previous series and projects, had the best and most innovative gunplay in any FPS I've ever played, and Destiny remains that answer as well. I stand by it. It's satisfying, and for a game which has a lot of repetition, repeating a lot of the same activities, grinding for certain items of, increasing rarity, right? The whole reason people keep coming back is not just for the chase of the loot and that item that's just better than everyone else's. It's because the gunplay is exquisite, it's top tier, and it's unbelievably satisfying to play. And I hope that with Marathon, their upcoming release, which is out in September, we see those traits translate over. And I have high expectations, hope, and I predict that it will be very fun to play. And what we've seen from our first look at gameplay over the last couple of weeks through various content creators in the space is they're all sharing that sort of cautious optimism, is that the game is very fun to play, but it remains to be seen on full release on how it translates into building and, more importantly, cultivating a larger scale audience over a long period of time. Because delving their feet into an extraction shooter style of genre is a bold move. I believe they're probably the only AAA dev to really take those first steps, because we've seen successes with smaller but still, widely appreciated games such as Hunt Showdown and, of course, probably the most infamous Escape from Tarkov have incredible success on the PC platform. And to see Bungie go down that route is a risk. And it does surprise me in a lot of ways because, unfortunately, with the position Destiny is in right now, and has been probably the last 2-3 years, on a natural and expected decline. You can't sustain an IP for that long of a time. It's just an inevitability of this industry that is constantly evolving and changing. But the sort of fallout of Destiny's decline is that Bungie have been in a financially dire perspective, and in a lot of ways that speaks for the wider perspective of the games industry and where it stands. In a post-COVID era, we've seen a lot of layoffs, and I know I've spoken about that on this channel before, and I think it's important to bring awareness to that, right? Bungie have been no strangers to those turn of events as well. They've had to have layoffs and cutbacks on a lot of projects as well. So to see them take such a risk with an extraction shooter with this big of a budget does surprise me. And it does scare me a little bit as well, because the sobering reality of this is, I think if Marathon doesn't meet expectations or fails, and Sony, their parent company now, aren't happy with the final product and the final release and the sales, this might be the end for Bungie. We've seen plenty of studios close in recent years, big and small, because of failed projects in a now industry where it's very cutthroat. The margins for error are very, very thin and could be devastating as a result. So I am a bit worried for them as a result. I do trust the ability of the team and those incredible devs, not just in Bungie, but in gaming in general. I think we need to show them all some love. But the team at Bungie, I know what they're capable of developing, and given the right amount of time and resources. And those are two very important factors, which most devs in this industry don't get the luxury of, sadly. So I'm cautiously optimistic, and I share the same sentiment of the content creators who have spoken and played the game for a little bit. And I wish I was in their shoes. But something I also feel like I have to mention, because this is a point in any game that I always want to bring up, because art direction is, for me, the most integral part to the final creative product. It's what gets me invested. It's what keeps me engaged within a world, within a universe that wants me to be immersed, right? I think that's the most important part, and the goal of strong art direction is to just evoke that feeling of escapism. That's what games are about to a T, in my opinion. And art direction enables that massively, done right. Marathon, from what we've seen from that first teaser trailer 2 years ago, still sticks with my head even now. You know, punchy, strong, bold, colorful visual aesthetics that aren't overbearing or overwhelming. And they're far, from the other end of the spectrum, far away from this current trend we see with a lot of AAA games of just overly realistic games with intense graphics, incredible fidelity, but absolutely no substance. I think of titles like Avowed, Atomfall is in most recent memory comes to mind, or Concord is probably another one, which, you know, I spoke about in my last video and criticized for very good reason for its very poor art direction, at least from a character design perspective. But even from this instance, in this context, we're talking about just graphical fidelity. It's very high, but the art direction is terrible. And, you know, that's a common trend we've seen a lot recently. So it's so brilliant to see Bungie, again, take this risk. I think this is more a positive one, as we've seen from the general reception to this art style. It seems to be received very well. So I think they've achieved a lot there. And if you go watch the new short film they put out for it, or the new gameplay they've shown, you can just see the amount of effort the art team have poured into this project. And that's something Bungie have always been really, really good at. I think Destiny shined in that regard. Again, I talked about the gunplay being first in class. I'd say the art direction is probably not far behind as well. So many brilliant vistas, and they did such a good job of creating this world which you just get enveloped in because of the intricacies in its art from across the different character designs, races, buildings, everything in between. It's done so well. Marathon, in many ways, from what we've seen, is doing it even better. So that definitely excites me. And I'm not sure if, from a gameplay perspective, the extraction shooter is the way to go. As I mentioned earlier, that's something I'm not jumping to play at. It's not personally for me. I like to play something quite laid back, first stories, which I know Bungie are trying to tell passively, which remains to be seen how effective that's going to be. But I think Bungie's next project in Marathon will launch well. I think it will have a good release to start off with, and they've earned that reputation to guarantee that at the very least. As I said, what remains to be seen is the skill, which they've done with Destiny, in cultivating an audience over a longer term period. It might not be 10 years, 10 plus years even, like Destiny has been now, but I can only hope it will be something even close to that. I'm very much looking forward to it. I can't wait to play it when it comes out. And yeah, it excites me, and I really do hope it excites you too, because we're in an industry where, you know, the medium is constantly evolving. We've seen a lot of AA developers and their projects really shine through, as well as smaller indie projects almost overtake the AAA market in a lot of ways. So it's nice to see a AAA dev finally pull up their bootstraps a little bit and take some risks. And regardless of how Marathon ends up being received, I will forever appreciate, you know, the Bungie for taking those risks and taking a chance on something different, something new. And yeah, can only hope for positive results. But thank you for listening, enjoying my rambles. I'm going to try and really post a little bit more, just heart-to-heart conversations and talks with you about the gaming world, the things I love, the things I hope you love as well. I really want to just foster a small community here, and I'm trying. I am trying. I'm just very busy with my MMA platform, but I appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in, listening in, and I'll see you pretty soon. Have a good one.